Welcome to the More Demand podcast, where we help you generate more demand for your products and services. Every episode we give you tips, tricks and tutorials on how to get the best out of your digital marketing. Less frustration, more demand. Here's your host Lawrence Howlett with this week's freshest tips.
Hello and welcome to the More Demand podcast, episode number 15. Today I have a very special guest with me, none other than Unbounce's very own Oli Gardner. Oli has learned marketing by doing marketing, having successfully founded Unbounce as one of the leading landing page design tools. I think he's earned the right to speak around the world as he does at huge marketing events and conferences. And today we're lucky enough to have him on the More Demand podcast. My interview with Oli takes a deep dive into the importance of landing pages and how your business will benefit from this very simple marketing tactic. So without further ado, let's welcome Oli onto the call. Hi Oli, welcome to the More Demand podcast. For those who don't know yourself, I have just given you a bit of an intro, but bring us up to speed on how you became the founder of Unbounce from humble beginnings as a beehive factory worker, I think.
Yeah, that was my first job. Definitely not the best I've had, but surprisingly, it's not the worst.
Okay, cool.
Factory work is not fun. It's repetitive, boring, and inevitably leads to teenagers playing with power tools like nail guns.
Sounds good.
Irresponsible ways. I guess after that, I started professionally as a Unix C coder, hardcore back-end coding for many years. Then started moving into the web, the front end. And then it got laid off from my first job when I moved to Canada. We actually got laid off on 9/11.
Right. Okay.
Which was a little strange.
Definitely.
.com crash was just happening, and that's actually where I met 3 of the 6 co-founders of Unbounce. And then after that, another bad job. I delivered pizza for 6 months.
Okay. Yeah.
After we got laid off, basically.
So you've been through the mill, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the start of becoming an entrepreneur. Instead of sitting on my ass collecting unemployment benefit, I reached out to a bunch of eco-tourism companies with crappy websites, told them they had crappy websites, and offered to design and build them non-crappy websites in exchange for free trips and portfolio pieces.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, very entrepreneurial. Definitely swapping services.
Yes, and then I got into usability, interaction design, became a creative director. Reconnected with Rick, our CEO. We worked for a really sketchy online casino in Costa Rica for a while.
Right.
And then a bunch of us, we were sick of working for other people, so we just got together. Rick had 2 ideas. We picked one, which has turned into Unbounce. And yeah, we all just quit our jobs and started the company.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for bringing us up to speed. So you've obviously been through the process of starting an organization from the bottom up. So what has that taught you in terms of, the critical marketing mindset in terms of, landing pages and turfing all that sort of great content out for, businesses that are just maybe getting started, and, how do they focus on something like that in the early days?
Right. It's funny. I used to hate marketers. I became marketer the day we started the company. With 6 founders, we could do everything pretty much, but we didn't have a marketer. So that's when I started then. And I was faced with the decision, become what I didn't like or make marketing something that I did like.
Yep.
One of our core values at Unbounce is delight. We didn't have those values back then when we started, but I guess it was always infused in what we did. I look at it like this. If you're not making someone's day better when you speak to them through your marketing, you should basically shut up and stop sending emails, stop writing, and be quiet until you find a way that you can.
Yeah, because you're being disruptive.
Yeah, you're just doing work rather than doing something for a good reason. You should always be trying to make someone's day better. The only trait I really care about for myself, and in others really, is something I call GAS, which stands for giving a shit.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
because if you do, then nothing else matters. Because you put everything into what you do, which was really how we started, from a content perspective, and trying to be just exceptional with everything we did. We started creating content from day one. We didn't have a product. That took about 9 months, but we started a blog, started writing ebooks, everything from day one, so that we had some content, we had an audience, we had all this kind of stuff before we even released our product for the first time.
Yeah, sure. So the book that I'm writing, Digital Marketing and Lead Generation, it's all about helping entrepreneurs and business owners generate that more demand for their products and services. So how do landing pages help them achieve that demand growth? I mean, what's the sort of business case for landing pages?
The simplest way to look at a landing page is, you should never start a marketing campaign without a dedicated landing page. A landing page is for a single purpose. The effective thing about them is they ask a yes/no question. If you send your traffic, no matter where it's from, to your homepage or your website, there's a lot of things to do. But on a landing page that's specifically designed for a campaign, it's a yes/no. If they don't do it, it's just that page that failed. Whereas if they're wandering around your website, it's really hard to know what it was that made them either successful or unsuccessful. So that's one of the big benefits of a landing page. And it's going along with delight, it's a more delightful experience because it's simple. It stops you having to make more than one decision. You don't have to really think about very much. Here's an offer. Do you want it? Yes or no?
Yeah, there's not a lot of friction there, is there? It's it's quite a simple statement to make, a yes or a no.
Mm-hmm. And conversion rate optimization isn't about percentages and big wins. It's about optimizing your business by being a thoughtful marketer who listens to your potential customers and actual customers and uses that data to create better experiences. Okay,
so I love giving my audience actionable tasks, and that's all what the step-by-step plan is about. So if we just get stuck into what are the core elements of a landing page that people should consider when trying to design a landing page. Should it have a top nav? Should it have other features on there, or what makes up the sort of the core elements of a landing page?
A really important thing to think about when you're doing landing pages for any campaign is that copy informs design, not the other way around. You shouldn't start with the design. You should write all of your campaign copy and then design an experience that delivers that. Otherwise, your information hierarchy can be off. You can have things in the wrong order, tells the story in the wrong way. So that's a good way to get started. But anatomically, a landing page should have a few core elements. And one, it should definitely not have a navigation. That's for your website. There are some exceptions where if you have internal scrolling with the navigation, that's not so bad because at least you're not leaving the page. So that's kind of okay. But you want your headline, and your subhead. They kind of make up your unique campaign proposition, which is telling me what this page is about and why I should care. Then you have some more detail on that. So you have your benefit statements. Give me 3 or however many descriptions, reasons why I should care about this thing specifically. What are the features of this written in a way that helps me? You have your hero shot, which is your most important kind of visual element of what your product or service is. It can be video, it can be an image. Be careful with video because videos often only get watched like 10 to 15% of the time. So if your page can't communicate without the video, you're missing out. So be careful. If you use video, make sure your page communicates your offer under the assumption that they don't click the play button.
Yeah, sure.
2 other things. Then you have your call to action. Obviously, that's your button or it's your form. And then some social proof of some kind, testimonials or that's the hard thing that when you're getting started, that's probably one of the most common questions I get is, I don't have any testimonials. It's a new product. No one's used it. It's a new service. No one's used it. It's an ebook nobody's read, all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's no social proof there.
Yeah, and the best ways of dealing with that are first to be okay with it because, it's not the end of the world. It's something you need on there, but it's not going to kill you if you don't have it.
Yeah.
And it's better not to lie because there are a lot of fake testimonials out there.
Yeah.
And people can just see right through it.
John from England said.
Yeah, and it's all hyperbolic. It's all just saying how amazing you are, and nobody believes that.
No, you can smell the BS a mile away.
Yeah, so there are a few ways you can get around that. Reach out to influencers in your in your community and give it to them for free and let them use it. And you'll find somebody who's willing to use it, and then they'll give you a review. So that's a testimonial. You can do outreach to bloggers or journalists and get them to write about it. Here's an interesting one. You can talk about the bigger picture. So let's say someone in your industry, here's an example I have a landing page course. And instead of a testimonial saying, this course is amazing, I have a quote of Rand Fishkin saying, conversion rate optimization is important because of blah, blah, blah. So he's backing up the importance of the concept that the course is going to teach you. So he's not talking about it directly, but he says, this is important stuff you need to learn about. Yeah. That helps people build the desire to take the course.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned in some of those elements, obviously copywriting is where it all starts. So with copywriting being critical for landing pages, let's just go through some of those elements that you would write. So we talked about the headline and the subheader. How do you go about writing them and building in a bit of suspense and almost telling a story?
Well, yeah, in terms of a story, that's why you write all the copy first, not thinking about the design of your page. But yeah, I mean, you want your headline to lead to your subhead, to lead to these benefits, to lead to your call to action. I'll reverse this a little bit. Well, actually, no, I'll go back.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Your headline, it needs to communicate as quickly as possible what this page is about. And it needs to deliver on the promise you made prior to the click. So let's say you're doing paid advertising, the search intent. You search for something, you see an ad that's relevant, you click on that, and then if you have this generic page that doesn't speak specifically to that ad, you've lost them. Same if you have an email and you're speaking about something and you go in there and your headline is clever or it's not really what you just promised, that's where people fall down. They try and be clever quite often, and clarity usually beats clever.
Yeah.
A simple one for your call to action, like as a way to get started, you can make it finish the sentence, I want to blank.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So I want to download my free ebook. I want to register for the webinar. I want to start my free trial. Things like that.
A lot of people, they think that, does that actually go on the button specifically, or is that a headline above the form?
Good question. Yes, for lead gen, there's something I call form first design. So you should be able to design your form as if it's the only thing on the page, and it will still communicate exactly what's going to happen, because that's the foundation of lead gen, obviously, the form. A lot of people, they don't introduce the form. There's no header, and then it's a submit button, like it says submit. So it tells you nothing. You have to read everything else on the page to figure it out. And I find it much more impactful if you can do the form in isolation to kick things off. So it have a headline, just kind of like the page has an anatomy, so does your form. So it has a headline, a subhead, it has maybe some bullets, that can be too much. It's got your form, your form, your call to action. And then there's a thing I call a closer, which is a little statement that you have in close proximity to your call to action, designed to trigger that last minute, like a click trigger, something that makes people more likely to click.
Yeah, so would that be? Are you talking about sort of, we're not going to spam you or something like that, or is it something different?
Along those lines, except good you brought that one up. Words like spam are stop words. So these closers, these little statements you can put next to your call to action, can be very powerful or very dangerous. It's a very it's a dodgy area to be working with. You really have to test anything you put there. But words like spam are stop words. So you're filling in the form and you get down there and it says, we will never spam you or sell your email to any third party. Well, I wasn't thinking you were going to. Yeah. And now you just said that you just put that in my mind. So and that's very common. Everybody writes that.
Yeah.
Something like 100% privacy guaranteed is much better. It's all positive. And, so just be very careful with those negative triggers.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Great tip. So if we think about landing pages, obviously you've seen tons of them with Unbounce. I'm not sure how many thousands of landing pages are hosted on Unbounce, but I'm sure you've seen thousands of common mistakes. So what are the sort of 3 major common mistakes that you see on a landing page?
Yeah, I have indeed seen a lot, about 80,000 at this point.
Wow.
Because I get our IT department to send me like a bunch of screenshot dumps so I can look through and try and spot trends. But in terms of, we've had over 1 million landing pages published through Unbound. So
Wow.
I'm not going to look at all of them.
Yeah.
It's interesting. These mistakes are things that I kind of already mentioned. You know, the headline, it doesn't speak to the promise before the click, the information hierarchy. I mean, you can just go around a lot of landing pages and look at them, and usually the subhead is the clearest part of the entire page and the headline is not. So you just need to flip that. You have instant clarity. And to write your campaign copy before you design your page. I mean, a lot of people will start with a template, which is good. It's a great way to get started, but it's kind of a square peg round hole situation. You shouldn't write 3 bullet points just because there are 3 on your template.
Yeah. If it doesn't fit, what you're trying to say, then, if it needs 2, then just use 2. Don't be afraid of it.
Exactly. What other mistakes? Well, in terms of, let's say, imagery, it's often kind of a little bit bland and dull. Like, here's a screenshot of our product. The better way to demonstrate what's visually what's going to happen is something I call context of use. So what does it actually look and feel like to use your product or be involved with you? So a common example I use is, let's say you have a little step ladder, a kitchen step ladder for people to reach to higher shelves if they're not very tall. Now, you could just have a shot of this on a white background. That doesn't tell me anything. It's just like, here's a step ladder.
Yeah.
But if I show it being used for a shorter person to reach the cupboard, I get it. And then maybe a second photo of them folding up and it going under the kitchen sink. So I know that it's small and I know how I use it. That's the context of use. Now there's benefit in the visual. And a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, no, that's another absolutely great tip for sure. And, it's worth spending the time on getting that, bespoke imagery, if it's your own product as well, getting those in-use shots, especially if you're on e-commerce stores as well. You don't just want that cutout of the product. So once we've made a great looking landing page, we've got all the content nailed, we've written our calls to actions, and we think we're done. We think, we're going to launch it and we've built it and they'll come. But we all know that's just the start. So we're then into conversion optimization and looking at A/B testing. But before we do that, how do we get traction and visibility for landing pages? What sort of some of the traffic sources that is it a case of, will a landing page be picked up in Google, or do we have to do Facebook ads, or what are some of the methods to bring traffic to those landing pages?
Right, very common question, especially when you're getting started out. Where do I get traffic from?
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough.
Everywhere.
The truth is, at some point, you are going to have to pay for it, or you do things that bring people in from other ways. So maybe you write guest blog posts or something that can bring people to your pages. But one of the main things to learn right away is to use them for everything. This is a common mistake too. You think, I'm only going to use it for my PPC campaigns, or you should use them for everything, because then you get more exposure by default. So how do you get more traffic? Do more stuff. When you do more stuff, drive people to a landing page. That comes down to hustle. If you do more things, you're going to get more traffic. But be obsessive about them. I'm not blowing smoke when I say this, but we legitimately couldn't live without Unbounce as a tool, whether it's for email campaign, PPC, an event we're putting on for hiring people, the offer page for a webinar, or a conference I'm speaking at. There's always a need for a landing page for everything you're doing. So if you're a marketer running any kind of campaign or just any kind of communication, you need a page as a destination for that. For the conference one I just mentioned, so when I'm speaking, I have a lot of kind of giveaways, like downloadable things that people can take with them. So every now and then I'll flash a slide with the URL. That gets them to go get all this useful stuff they can use afterwards. And then there's a call to action, obviously, there for them to sign up or something. So you stay top of mind when you have a destination for everything you ever do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. You can have it in your email signature, for example. I'm speaking at this conference. Great to see you there. Sign up here for the slides before the show, or whatever it is. You can point that to a landing page, and then start collecting that data and know who's engaged in your audience as well, and then start to, maybe drip feed them some emails on the run up to the event, or whatever it is to just keep them, as you say, front of mind.
Yeah, and just be relentless about creating content. Like for let's say you are going to an event, maybe you're just an attendee. Instead of just having a business card to swap with people, maybe have a one pager to learn something, like a 5-page ebook or something. And when you're talking about that, give out a card that goes to a landing page to give that away. Try and be useful. Try and be helpful to other people. And it doesn't take long to put together a small piece of content like that.
No, exactly. And it gives you a conversation starter as well. You're not just going in there blank and saying, "Oh, I do whatever my service does." You've actually got a piece of value that you can have a transaction with them, rather than just introducing yourself. So a lot of my audience, they've got some of these landing pages possibly set up, and they're not just getting the leads that they want to out of them. So what are some of the conversion optimization tips you can give? When you're A/B testing, what elements on the page do you give the most sort of squeeze to get the more juice out of them, if you like? Is it all about testing the copy, or is it mainly images make the biggest difference, or a mix of the two?
Good question. There's no one way to prescribe a solution. You have to do research of some point, of some kind. As soon as you see a pain point, then you're in a position to design an experience that speaks to solving that problem. It's not just about button color testing, which is largely irrelevant. And there's the curse of the case study, where you read these blog posts about someone that did ABC and they got this giant conversion lift, and it's not transferable. That should be used for inspiration only. Take that and go, how does that apply to my audience? How can I design an experience that does something similar? Don't just copy what they've done, because that never works.
Yeah.
So one of a big success we had on our templates page on unbounce.com, simple Qualaroo pop-up widget that said, "Hey, what do you think of our templates?" I let it run for a month, got a bunch of answers, and there were 3 overwhelming responses. How much are they? Where can I download them? And can I use them in WordPress? You can't do any of those things.
Right.
So that's where context of use came in. The solution to that was showing a diagram at the top of the page that shows you where they are in the template library, and then showing it inside the page builder. So bringing that context of use solved the problem, and we got a big lift in conversions because of that. So you don't test based on the elements of the page. You test based on a hypothesis for how to remove an observed pain. And that might be a headline change, or it could be adding larger imagery, like say if it's e-com and you have small pictures of flowers that people, they're not willing to buy because they're too small and they haven't had the right experience. If you see that, then you do bigger. The pain point is small images, you make them bigger so there's more clarity, visual clarity. But yeah, if you're not solving a problem, you're not doing it right. You just, and everybody tests poorly to begin with. We did bad tests for years. We'd gamify it, which was great because it started to build the testing culture, but we did it wrong. We'd just try and, we'd write 5 headlines and then hit the start button and see which one happens, and wait and see. But there are so many mistakes that people make when they start testing. And one of them being testing with the wrong approach, like just testing your headline because you want to try something different, but then not letting your test run far enough, long enough, reacting. Almost every single test you ever run will spike at the beginning. And you go, "Oh, it's amazing, high five," and you stop the test, you push the new version live, and then your business tanks. Because it's not the truth. You have to run for at least 2 weeks. You need 100 to 250 conversions on each page variant. You need statistical significance of like 98%. And it can take a long time for these things, especially with low traffic.
Yeah.
You have to be careful.
Okay, so sort of takeaways from that, let your tests run. Don't be afraid to, let them run for 2 weeks. Collect the data that you need, and make sure that you've got a significant amount of people there that have gone through the test to make an informed decision. So you touched there on e-commerce, which a lot of my audience think, how do I transpire landing pages to an e-commerce situation? Because surely I just want to push them to the add to cart page. So how does Unbounce integrate with e-commerce, and what does that workflow or customer journey look like?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with e-commerce. It is slightly different. The shopping mentality is a bit different from other things. Often, like say you're doing paid advertising, if you're running a category ad, like for shoes or red shoes, it's okay to send through to the category section of your website. If you're doing a product ad, go to the product page. That's okay. But if you're doing a campaign, if you have an offer, something specific, that's when you should use a landing page. So people come there, it confirms the ad, they get the chance to look around the page at this very simple offer, then they can hit the add to cart button there and move into the website at that point. You're warming them up by explaining what this offer or this special is. Because often you can't get that change made on your website quickly enough, or,
Yeah, especially if you're using Magento or something like that, it's just going to cost you a fortune every time you want to add a page to the application. It's an absolute beast. So, so I suppose that's where Unbounce would sit in the middle, and you would use those landing pages. Say if you had a Mother's Day campaign or something like that you wanted a free giveaway, and it just confirmed that. From transitioning from the ad through to the landing page, and then onto the website where you're straight into those, maybe a category of, hundreds of products that suit, that Mother's Day special offer.
Yeah, because you've confirmed that they have what you want. There's an example I used to run through where if you're searching, I was searching for next day flower delivery. So if you search for that, there's two things you want. There's the timeliness, I need it tomorrow, and there's flower delivery, obviously. So when you get to the page and it doesn't confirm that, it doesn't say next day flower delivery, you're like, okay. Now you're left to hunt around the page, try and find out if they have this fast delivery. Whereas if it came to a landing page and the headline said, next day flower delivery guaranteed, now here's the segmentation, choose the type of flowers you need. That's the correct information hierarchy. That's the correct order. Because the most important, I know you have flowers, you're a flower site. That's fine.
Yeah, we've confirmed that.
The most important thing to me is that I can get them to my mother or spouse or whatever tomorrow. So that should be the headline of your page. And your homepage isn't going to do that, because that's only one facet of what you have to offer when it comes to your website. But for that type of thing, that's a perfect use case. If you take these different features of your service, if one is fast delivery, you can write ads based specifically on that type of activity. And that's where the landing page is really useful for e-commerce. Sure.
Okay, well, we know you've created, a ton of valuable content for Unbounce. There's an Unbounce course as well. I forget the URL off the top of my head now. It's the remind me, Oli.
Yeah, it's a do.thelandingpagecourse.com.
Yeah, sure. So that goes through a load of different stages that you can track from, creating your first landing page, what content to write, how to design a call to action. And it really steps through that, process really neatly and straightforward. You can follow it from a newbie point of view, or if you want to brush up your skills. So it's really worth a visit and go and check that out for sure. And also that's actually probably a lead generator for you as well. That's where people build up trust to start off with.
It's interesting, actually. It's not anymore. It's totally open. You don't even need an email address. But it did start off as an email-driven course. So yeah, it was lead gen for us, and it's the most successful thing we've ever done content-wise, in terms of a single piece. So yeah, before it was a drip campaign, so you'd sign up and it was a 30-day drip campaign with 11 parts. And to be honest, the reason it's ungated now, no email, is because it was too much for me dealing with all of the replies from the emails. So we ran it for about a year and then turned that off because it did its lead gen job, and now it's more of an ungated organic SEO play. Yeah, actually, sure. To your point earlier, I didn't speak to that about, you were saying for getting traffic, will people come to your landing pages through organic traffic? Typically, that's not what you want, because a landing page, unless it's evergreen content, something that lives forever, you shouldn't be indexing it with Google, because it then pollutes your campaign traffic, especially if you're doing, say, paid advertising and it's costing you X per conversion. If you start putting other traffic in there, all of a sudden your stats are messed up. You don't know how much you're paying for a customer or a lead. So you need to separate those things. If you want organic traffic or you want traffic from other places, have a page for each of them. Then you can design an experience that's relevant to that inbound channel, but you don't mess up your analytics.
No, that's actually a great point, yeah, because you'd be diluting it and you wouldn't know whether that's come through PPC or, maybe you would with obviously conversion tracking, but yeah, it could dilute that, and then where's your cost per acquisition? You would start to lose that data.
Yeah, I mean, you can get super advanced and figure that out, but who wants to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Analytics is as big a pain as it is.
Yeah, it's definitely a monster, and again, a lot of people just starting out, they don't know how to set up, maybe their own conversion tracking or their own dashboards to really dive into the data that you need to get out of Google Analytics, because it is quite a beast to get used to. So I know from using Unbounce in my own experience, the stats are really clear there. As soon as you drop into the page, you can see how your campaign's performing, how many visitors you've had, what the conversion rate is, and then integrate that into tons of different apps as well, like MailChimp and Aweber, I think you're integrated with. So just tell us a bit more about Unbounce and maybe share some real success stories that you've had, with customers using it, particularly in, sort of B2B in maybe service industry or something like that.
Yeah, well, in terms of the company, obviously we're a landing page platform. We build, publish, and A/B test landing pages without need from technical people like IT. I mean, that's the main value proposition, is that we empower marketers by giving them control of their own work, so they're not slowed down by other people. It's interesting, you say success stories. We've had customers where they use us for their marketing, and then they saw an opportunity, and now their entire business, like we have agencies, they stopped all of their other work, and now they just service other Unbounce customers, and that's their whole business model, which is incredible to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's like cases for iPhones. It's just
right. Yeah, I love seeing that. Seeing these entrepreneurs be more successful, and we've helped that, which is indirectly, but that kind of stuff's really cool. So it really is empowering people to do their own marketing, but also to think of new ways of doing business. It's great. And I love also when we see we have a massive range of companies using us, big companies like Amazon and things like that, but all the way down to these small businesses and everything in between, and charities. And it feels good when you see companies doing good using your product. Because, a lot of people, the whole Google thing, or the startup thing, you want to change the world in some way. Well, we have to live vicariously through our customers, I guess, because we make the world a better place by making better marketing experiences possible. But really, that's that's not changing the world, really.
Yeah.
But some of the people using it are, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting, especially in the charity sector and things like that. If they can get more signups, more donations, that's got to give you some good satisfaction.
Definitely.
So I think we're just about coming to the end, and you've really added an absolute ton of value today for our listeners, and they're going to really be excited about putting all that theory into practice. So where could they find out a bit more about Oli Gardner, Unbounce, and some training courses and things like that? Where could they go and pick up a bit more information to sort of take the next step in terms of landing pages?
Yeah, actually, unbounce.com, go to the resources link in the navigation. That has everything that we've done. It's a massive resource. And courses specifically, there's the landing page course you mentioned, but there's also a new one, which is a 7-day lead gen landing page course. So if you're talking lead gen, this is perfect for people. It's very short. It's 7 emails you get, and you can find all of that stuff there. In terms of me, you can email me. I'm totally open, Oli, Oli, unbounce.com, or just hit me up on Twitter, Oli Gardner. very active there, and always happy to chat with anyone.
Thanks, Oli. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And thank you to the listeners today. I hope you got a load of value out of all of the tips and tricks that Oli shared with us today along the way. And I will be sure to see you next Wednesday for another episode of the More Demand podcast. Until then, please do hit us up in the comment thread at moredemand.co.uk/episode 15. That's episode and the number 15. Until next time, thanks for joining us. I'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to the More Demand podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and get the latest episode direct to your device every Wednesday.